Hey guys, welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Sakosio, and I'd like to invite you in and come join our community of passionate and inspired ECE professionals where we reflect, where we discuss, and where we talk about investing in our children, families, communities, and of course our teachers, because we know they're the heartbeat of our school. So it's Wednesday, so that must mean it's guest day. So I'm very excited about that. I know you are as well. Before we get into that, I want to say, as I always do, thank you so much to our listeners. Rhode Island, I love you. Phoenix, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, you guys are just amazing every day tuning in. I love you, and I'm going to keep it up. As long as you keep tuning in, I'm going to keep showing up too. So thank you so much. So I'd like to introduce today's guest, and I'm going to have to read this. His bio is pretty impressive, so I don't want to mess it up. So we are joined today with Dr. Calvin Moore, an accomplished and experienced early childhood educator leader. He is appointed the interim CEO at the Council for Professional Recognition on May 2020. He is the first CEO of the council to also hold its early childhood education credential, aka the CDA. He previously served on the council's governing board. He earned his CDA nearly 3 decades ago, so that is a lot of experience. He also has a vast professional Head Start experience. He has worked in both large and small, urban and rural, center-based and family childcare-based programs, as well as programs that focus predominantly on the Hispanic families. Throughout his career, Moore has held senior roles directing complex public departments at both the federal and state level, and has focused on improving outcomes for underserved children and families. So welcome to our show.
Thank you, Erica. Now that you have completely embarrassed me by reading my bio.
So I love talking a little bit about, we're not going to talk about the CDA today, but I do love talking about the CDA. It is something that's very near and dear to my heart. How long have you been involved with the council?
So I've been involved with the council maybe about 10 years, and
Okay.
the last 4 I've been as CEO. So, but I mean, I got my CDA in 1992. So
Yeah.
that's when I started my council journey. So
Yeah.
really, it's been over 30 years I've been involved in
Yeah.
some way or the other.
The reason I asked is I also started my career and got a CDA probably about 20 years ago. And I had the privilege, is really the word I would use, to work with Joan Marshall. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Yes.
her name, but she is no longer with us. But Joan Marshall probably was one of the most, um, oh my gosh, I don't know, passionate and just loved early childhood education like no one I had ever met. And so she was just an amazing mentor and wonderful, person to help me through that as I earned my CDA. And our great friend Tracy Cheney, who's here in Rhode Island, she is an advisor for many folks, and I've got 5 employees right now that are working on their
Wow,
CDA. And
that's
my
impressive.
daughter, yeah, thank you. And my daughter just renewed hers, and she's just a baby. She's like 25 years old, and she's on her second renewal. But it's something that we really value at our school, and I think it's a great way to lead into our conversation about how you grow your team. Because I love my team. Everything we do on the show is either how we're growing our children, our families, our children, our families, our community, and our teachers. So thank you so much. So I read your bio a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about your background. Like what led you into this current role? What made you step up and say, you know what, I'd love to be the CEO?
Well, I really didn't step up. I think the board members may have taken a step back, and I was just left standing there because when Valora Washington, Dr. Washington was my predecessor, and she retired from the council, and she's off doing great things right now. But it was right in the middle of the pandemic. And so the board was looking for someone who could sort of hold things together during this global pandemic and keep things running, so to speak. And so I had the experience, I had the background, I had the lived experience of having earned my CDA, and they just felt like it was a real good alignment with my professional trajectory. So I took the bait. But what I did say to them was that I needed a runway to really figure out whether this was a good fit for me. And so they gave me an 18-month runway, and here I am, 4 years later. Obviously, it was a good fit.
Yeah.
And we're doing some wonderful things at the council to really reimagine the CDA process. So I'm really excited that I stepped up to the challenge.
Yeah. So you've now taken flight off the runway.
Yes, I'm in full flight right now,
You
Eric.
are
Full
full
flight.
flight. I love it. And I love to, we've talked on a few episodes about male educators in the field. And I love that, that you're a male because when I talk with so many young, because I'm old now, younger, younger folks coming in and applying and letting them know like this could be a really viable career for you too. And sometimes I think it's not something they consider at the early childhood level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right, Erica, because I think you're right. Because of the way society feels about early childhood, it doesn't occur to them that it could be a career path for them. And I think I've taken on that mantle. I really want to showcase men in the field whenever I can and let young men know that it is a viable option for them. And I want to start in high school. That's why the high school CDA program is so vibrant. As long as I'm at the council, we will be investing in the high school CDA because if we can capture them early, I think we have a good chance of keeping, even if we keep 10% of them,
Hmm.
right? And the rest of them become really good fathers. That's a win.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my daughter's fiance, Shay, works in our preschool program. And I believe in all that because I'm like, someday you're gonna be the father of my grandkids.
That's
And
right.
he's
Absolutely.
so good with the kids. They love him. And I just it's nice when you have diverse staff. It brings such a richness to your program. So, what are some key tools or resources that early childhood leaders should provide their teachers to help them grow professionally?
So I think opportunities is the best way I could frame that. I mean, when I was coming into the field, I've been in the military for 4 years, looking for something to do. The Head Start director gave me an opportunity. She took a chance on me, and I think um, childcare directors in particular are really in a good place to take chances on people that may not naturally fit in the program. I think I was one of those folks because I was a Black male. I had this military background. It didn't line up well with
Yeah.
working with young children, and she took a chance on me, put me right into a CDA program. So I think opportunities like that really make a difference, and I think also looking at a person's background and seeing what you could align with, because obviously I had an eclectic background when I started, but if I look back over the things that I've done, I've always had some involvement with young children, whether it was at Sunday school or helping a little league game of baseball in my community, or just working with young children at the Boys and Girls Club. I think there are always some things that you can tap into. The other thing I think we can do for, particularly for entry level people, is to always pair them up with a mentor. Always give them somebody they can look to who's more skilled than they are, who can nurture their gifts and their talents and bring them along and scaffold their learning. Because I believe, Erica, that teachers build knowledge about teaching the more experience they have, in the same way that children build knowledge about the world around them through hands on experiences. And if you've got a mentor, I know you talked about your mentor, I had one. Most successful teachers have a mentor that they really looked up to.
Yeah, I agree. There were so many wonderful things you said in that breath. I
Right.
I think you're onto something here with the high school. So when my daughter went to a charter school in her last year as a senior, they allowed or had a program called World of Work, so she could work in the center and earn credit at the high school level. But she was interested in early childhood development, so during that time that she was in high school, she was getting experience, was also taking professional development. So it was very easy for her to come out the gate. Like I said, she's only 25 and she's now
Yes,
doing her renewal. So it was easy because it was just a natural progression. So
that's right.
I love that tapping in at that high school level. The other thing I think that I thought was really great is taking a chance. So, there's a lot of talk about teacher shortages, and my boss long time ago, took a chance on me.
Yes.
So I didn't know anything about working with kids at all. I used to sew furniture. And I did that for a really long time, and I was actually really pretty good at it. And I had my daughter, and I went out and looked at some early learning centers, and I didn't want to leave it with anybody. I was a nervous mom. It was my first kid. And so many of my skills transferred over so easily to running a center. So I had
Hmm.
like a lot of that business background. So for the directors out there listening and thinking about, how do I fill in these staffing gaps with people who bring some richness and some not only diversity, but like you said, eclectic backgrounds that really can serve your program to make it better. So be open-minded about that, because you may find your gems in that endeavor. So I think that you brought up some really good things. How does investing in professional development of teachers translate into more effective and impactful childcare program?
I think the more that you pour into your teachers, whether it's a workshop, whether it's going to a conference, whether it's scaffolding them with a mentor, I think one of the things that happens during that process is that they become more confident in their abilities to teach and work with families. And so I think that is the best return on your investment. The more you pour into them, the more they can in turn pour into others, particularly those that are working with children and families. And I think that's the good byproduct, because you want to create an atmosphere at your center where people want to come. They feel like you are at the cutting edge of the field. They like you said, a young mother wants to feel comfortable leaving their child at a center. So I think that's the return on investment. You're pouring into your folks so they can then pour into others, is the byproduct of a really robust professional development system. Now, I tell you, we talked about male teachers. They need professional development. You've got to figure out how to get them in the door, and then pour into them, giving them the skills, both the soft and the technical skills that they need to work with children and families. Because we can be bombastic, I want to say, and we can be very different as an early childhood educator than our counterparts. So it's important that we know the fundamentals, right? So
Yeah.
that then if we have a messy classroom, we know why it's messy, and we can make the point that I don't have to clean up the paint right now. I can clean it
Hmm.
up at the end of the day. So I think if we know the fundamentals, we can gain respect for our approaches, which might be a little different than our female counterparts.
Yeah, they're definitely different, but
Yes.
in a great way, in a great way. So I had been lucky enough when I started, I worked in a school age program, and so I was very lucky enough to have many male teachers come because they feel
Mhm.
very comfortable in that space, right?
That's
There's
right.
no changing of clothes, there's no diaper changes. The
That's right.
kids are a little bit older, right? So
Yes.
they feel more comfortable. And so I've been very lucky. So for my first 12 years, I was able to work with a good amount,
Hmm.
honestly, of male staff.
Hmm.
And they do bring a different, I hate to say the word vibe, but I guess I'm going to use the word vibe.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
A different
Yeah.
vibe. And I feel like um, it's not only good for the kid, it's good for the coworkers too. Um, yeah, I think that having that male voice, especially now. So I work in my center every day, which is, unique for most childcare owners at this point. But I have found in the last 10 years, there's been this big shift. I have almost probably more dads at this point dropping off and picking up than moms.
Yes.
Dads, fathers are so involved in the child rearing at this point as a society that I love it. But I think it's also nice when you're a dad and you're coming in to have another person that you feel like maybe you can go to, maybe there's a concern, somebody you can relate to. I
Yeah.
think that's nice too.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think if you want to grow more male teachers, you want your center to welcome men, and the fatherhood program, if you could develop one, is a great way to get men in the door. I mean, if you can get them engaged in classrooms and make the place welcoming to men and have a male footprint in your classroom or in your center, that's one way, because I believe men begot men. If they feel it's a place they can be, they'll bring other men into the space.
Mhm. Can you share, because we both know, but I'd love you to share with the audience, can you share some examples of a positive impact that male educators have had, maybe in a program that you've been in, or just other programs that you've seen? Can you give some examples for folks?
Well, I think, one of the biggest impacts is where, behavior management is concerned. I think men bring sort of a different voice or tone into classrooms and centers. And I think most teachers that I've talked with, counterparts, my female
Hmm.
colleagues, they recognize that the tone of voice is different, that the way we command the space is different. And I think that diversity is really helpful. I don't want to say it's good cop, bad cop, because I think
Yeah,
it depends on the personality of the individual, but I think that is a unique difference. The way that we sort of live in the space is just different, and it impacts children differently. I think they respect it, they understand it, and I think they want that male figure around them, particularly if they don't have it through their dad or uncle or another important male figure in their life. The other thing I think is that research has said to us about male teachers is that they do impact the children in the long term, right? They have grit, they persist longer, they are academically proficient longer if they have a male teacher early in their path as students. And the last thing I would say is that there is some research that says socially the children develop social skills in a different way. The way they communicate, the way they resolve problems, the way they approach problems is a little different when they have engagement with a male figure, whether it's a father, a dad, an uncle, or a male teacher earlier in their lives.
yeah. So we both know that sometimes there is some hesitation or some challenges.
I've
How do
dealt
you
with it myself.
Yeah, me too. As an owner,
Yeah.
I would have families that might come in and say, "Are there any men that work here?" Or, did that guy get a check? Well, yeah, everybody in the whole building got a check, the same check, right? So,
Right.
what are some ways that you think that that can be addressed, or to make everybody feel more comfortable?
Well, I think you do have to talk about it. I think you have to really, if you're really serious about it, I would suggest that you talk with staff, that you talk with parents, you talk with families, make it a program wide, universal approach that you believe in, so that you all can grow and learn together. Because I think when I became a male teacher in a Head Start program in Birmingham, Alabama, it was really an intentional effort. The center director was intentional about recruiting and
Hmm.
retaining male teachers. We had a male teacher in every classroom. The bus driver was male. There was a
Yep.
male staff member in the kitchen. A family service worker was male. So they really had reached critical mass. It was really a 50-50 endeavor.
Nice.
50% male, 50% women. And I think that critical mass made a big difference in how parents felt about it, because what we learned is that parents, that first year that they experienced a male teacher was difficult, but that second and third year, they
Hmm.
were requesting to be in the classroom where there was a male teacher. So
Hmm.
we could kind of win them over because all of them were skeptical in the beginning. I'm talking about my personal endeavor.
Yeah.
My parents were skeptical of me as a male teacher in the
Hmm.
beginning, but that second and third year, they were knocking the doors
I
down.
bet they were.
Yeah.
I bet they were. We had a gentleman that worked for us for a very long time, Mr. Will, and it was the same thing. Those parents loved him. Um, so, you know, I'd love to talk a little bit about how childcare leaders can create an inclusive and supportive environment that encourages everyone to thrive at their center. So let's talk about that. How can we make everyone feel included and make sure that our teachers are thriving? Because, the last few years have certainly been pretty tough on everyone. A lot of burnout, a lot of stress, a lot of work overload. So tell me, what are your experiences and your ideas and thoughts on how we can really help our teachers thrive?
I think leaders have to be really creative and establish a wellness program, because I think what I know being an educator myself is that, we're last on the list. We're taking care of everybody and we're often last on that list. And I think having a vibrant wellness program where you're setting up opportunities for them to take care of themselves, where they can earn a day off or getting off early or coming in late. There are ways you can celebrate the work that teachers are doing every day, and then help parents celebrate that as well. And so I think if you have a vibrant wellness program that keeps them sort of connected in a way with you and with the work that recognizes how difficult it is, I think is important. So establishing a vibrant wellness program is going to be critical. Not only helping them deal with burnout, but just retaining high quality staff because they understand that you care about them and their well-being and not just the children and families that they serve every
Yeah, that's great advice. We have at our center downstairs, we're very lucky to have a wellness spa
day.
downstairs. And
There you go.
then
That's a great
yes, and
idea.
yeah, and then the lady who runs the spa, so she's so lovely. She put together a room that she calls the Zen Den. And once a month we give teachers coupons. They could go down, they have a cup of tea, they listen
Oh,
to
I'm stealing
some
that. I'm stealing
relaxing
that idea.
music. Yeah, the Zen Den. It was literally a utility closet. It was a good size, but she converted it literally into a space where people could just go relax. You could read a book, have a cup of tea, and had a
There you
dimmer.
go.
You could really make it's very a space where it's very you can make it very personalized, very customizable.
That's very
So
creative.
yeah, so things like that I think are really important. So what trends do you see in early childhood education regarding professional development, diversity in the workforce, and how can
Yeah.
leaders like myself prepare for these changes?
Well, there are two things that I've been thinking about. This is a great question, Erica. In the next 10 years, I like to look at trends over the next decade. And there are two things that are jumping out at me as I live in this space at the council. One is diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. I think that's going to be continuing to gain emphasis and prevalence in our field.
Hmm.
And I think people want to be recognized for their lived experience, whoever they are and wherever they came from. And I think being prepared for, a deepening of that understanding is going to be important for leaders in our space to embrace. And I think there are ways that we can embrace it that don't alarm other people or make people feel left out or make people feel attacked. So I think there's a way to do it. And I think in the next 10 years, it's going to be more important for us to figure that out. The second thing that I'm keeping my eye on is this STEAM education bandwagon.
Hmm.
I think I'm loving what I'm seeing, right? Where
Hmm.
all of these other disciplines are coming into our field: science, technology,
Hmm.
engineering, the arts, mathematics. I think
Yeah.
that's going to gain some steam to fun, use the word over the next 10 years as well. And I think we're going to have to figure out how to bring these disciplines in a developmentally appropriate way.
Yeah, I mean, technology is definitely here to
Yes.
stay. And even when you just think about how that is married into the arts, like you think about, to me, immediately I think of an iPhone, although I have a
Yes.
Samsung, but you think of an
Yeah.
iPhone and it's very intentional, the design, the way it looks, the way it feels, like all those elements were pulled into this piece of technology. It wasn't like, like back in the day when the phone was like,
Right.
was like the size of a book, right?
Exactly.
They're very intentional about it. And so this is a great way for those future engineers to kind of get
That's
their
right.
hands on it, right? To get their hands on it. So tell me a little bit about what's going on at the council now. Share a little insight since we have you.
Yeah, we're really busy at the council. We embarked about 18 months ago on reimagining the CDA process, the process that your daughter just went through to renew her CDA. We want to streamline that and make it as easy and seamless as possible. Because what we know is that there were a lot of pain points. Let me give you one example. So
Okay.
when people called our 1-800 number, it was difficult for them to get to us. Sometimes they had to wait an hour, sometimes 2 hours. Well, if you haven't been paying attention, we got that down to 5 or 10 minutes now. So we're wanting to be more responsive to our customers. We also want to work on eliminating some of those pain points. Finding a PDS and how do I develop my portfolio. So we're developing tools and resources that makes the process easier for candidates. For example, we're developing an electronic portfolio. So if you want to use technology to make that easier, we're developing a platform where you can have an electronic version of that portfolio. And we're also looking at giving initial applicants more time on their tests. So we just gave them 15 more minutes to finish and complete their exam. So there are just different ways that we're making the process more candidate centric, more friendlier to the candidate.
Hmm.
And we've been busy doing that. And then the final thing I would say, Eric, is that we're developing a new CRM. So the application platform that candidates are using is being overhauled completely. And by the end of the year, we're going to be launching a new system.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like y'all have been very, very busy.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so are you, because there's a lot of leaders that listen to this podcast, are you actively looking for folks to become mentors for the CDA program?
Yeah, we're looking for PDSs all the time. And we know that if we have directors like you in that position, that they're more likely to support the candidate in a way that they be successful. So yes, we're always looking for PDSs and mentors to work with our candidates. So if you're interested, please reach out to me. I think I gave you my contact information. I
You
don't
did.
mind
We'll put it in the show notes. Yes.
sharing it with your network. Let people reach out directly to me. We want to hear from them.
One other question I wanted to ask you. Do you find that states who have quality rating standards, do you find that those states have more applicants that apply to become CDA? So if they have a quality rating system in their state, do you find that those states have more folks apply, or do you find it's pretty much just across the board?
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. I think
Okay.
it's more than just the QRIS. I think that's a part of it. If the
Mm-hmm.
CDA is embedded within the qualification requirements of the QRS,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Then in
Okay.
those states, the CDA is really growing and booming. And there are a
Okay.
couple of states like that around the country, Florida, Texas, Alabama, for example. Those systems have the CDA embedded within them. So
Mm-hmm.
naturally, they are big CDA states. But the other thing that I think is important besides QRS is scholarships and professional development funding and training that supports early educators as well. So we know that those states that have those systems in
Mm-hmm.
place, the CDA is thriving. Maryland is a good example of that because they just put out a grant a few years ago where they said, here's $1 million. We're going to put it out here. Everybody who wants a CDA can get one.
Mm-hmm.
And when states do things like that, we see an uptick in professional development,
Yeah.
not just the CDA, but the AA and the bachelor's degree as well.
Yeah. So we have that here in Rhode Island.
That's right. You do.
Yes,
In Rhode
yes.
Island. That's
I was little
right.
roadie.
That's right.
Yeah, so I do have a few teachers I have already earned their CDA through that program, and
Yeah.
then we have the Teach program, and it
Yeah.
also is
Teach.
embedded. Yeah, it's
That's
also
right.
embedded in our quality rating system. So yeah, that's what made me
Rhode
ask that
Island, I
question.
think Delaware. Rhode Island and Delaware, both you guys may have a similar system.
Yeah, yeah. So we're doing good things in this little state over here.
That's right.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would love to leave with the audience before we sign out today?
Well, the only thing I would like to leave with the audience is, many times directors are not recognized and are not, held up as the champions that they should. And I'm hoping that you have a lot of directors listening. I just wanted to say to them that at the council, we know that you're doing some excellent work, and we are thinking about ways that we can better support directors. And I just want you to know that we're thinking about a council alumni network group for directors in particular. And so, Erica, we're going to be reaching out to you to maybe bounce some ideas off of you and to
Sure.
let your listeners know that we're coming because we know
Yes, I
directors are
love
really
it. I love
essential.
it.
If we can have a director that's really tied into and supports the CDA, those candidates will be successful. So we're thinking about ways that we can
100%.
better
Yes.
support and reach out to directors.
Well, yeah, and I think if you have a director who's had a CDA or
Yes,
loves that journey or recognizes that journey in their own professional growth, those are the folks who are going to be like, yeah, whether it's on your part of your QRS or not, the
know
weight
what
that
you
it
have.
carries,
Yes,
the
yes,
weight that it carries. So
that's
thank
right.
you so much. You've been a lovely guest. And for those of you out there listening, thank you so much. Two things I want to leave. One, we are raffling off a $100 gift card to Lakeshore Learning. Just hit the text notes there and tell us what episode you liked on our podcast and why. And you could be one a lucky winner. And secondly, remember, it's the small details that make a big impact on the success of your childcare program. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.